Yeah. We're rolling today with a buddy of mine. Man, my headphones are already all over the place. Dan Proffitt. He is Wyoming born and raised. I'll go ahead and give away your age, somewhere damn near 50, but self-proclaimed cowboy, samurai, ninja, Viking, Spartan, maybe philosopher, I think you've even said, in a 20-year-old body, or at least the mind of a 20-year-old. Dan,
absolutely.
Welcome, man. Great to see you. It's you and I know each other through the Spartan community. It's an honor to have you on. And I think one of the things that's so epic about this community is you and I met in Sparta, Greece. Like how often do you get to say something like that?
Yeah, it's like you meet somebody and you just bullshit, and then you find out, oh, hey, this guy is got his own podcast, or I've met some other people that have crazy ass jobs, and it's like, well, you just run, you're just pals on the course.
Yeah, you never know, right? You're just out there getting muddy together, muddy, sweaty, and cut up, bleeding.
You're all equal out there. Doesn't matter.
We're all equal, just men and women doing our thing, and it's part of the beauty of it, right? You see everybody from, like, you and I were in Greece, right? And it was did you run all 3 races? I think you did, right?
I did.
Yeah, so trifecta format. And one of those days, I've told people the story a couple of times where we had to run 2 races in a row on one of those days, right? And the elites of the world, this is a world championship event, they were running the course at the same time we were. So I remember running down that riverbank, and I forget his name, one of the top English runners. He was on his 2nd race already of the day. And I thought I was moving along pretty good, especially given the surface. Maybe I was, clocking sub 8-minute mile, which for me was pretty damn good. And this guy ran past me like I was standing still. Like,
I know, it's incredible. I'm always, I go to age groups sometimes, and if I know what the top time is in the elite, then it's like, if I double that, I'm good. That's right. That's what my time to beat is.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. It used to be triple, now I'm double. Yep. So I'm chipping away at my own. It's just me against myself, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of the point of the conversation we're going to have today, and kind of the fun of this thing is you see everything from those guys that somehow they're running 5-minute miles across rough terrain and hills on an obstacle course, to the person that just got off the couch and had the courage to click that button and sign up and join us or some friends and get out there for the first time ever. They might have to walk it. They might have to ask for help. They're going to fail, and it's all part of the process.
Amen. I give my hats off to anybody who, doesn't matter what OCR race it is. My hats off to them for getting off their ass and doing something. Yeah. It's hats off to them.
100%. It's just one form of doing something new or different, uncomfortable or scary. And that's how we grow, right? And that first step is somebody talking you into clicking that button and saying, sign up, or listening to this podcast and like, oh, I always wanted to do one of those. We'll make it happen.
Well, I got a gal that she's been training with me for a little over a year, and, she wanted better shape and all that jazz. But she wanted to get out of her comfort zone. I said, perfect, because her husband used to run races with me, and then it was her turn. So it's like, okay, I'll make you, I'll get you scared, I'll get you uncomfortable, and she's loving it.
That's awesome. Yeah. We just ran one here in San Diego not too long ago. First time that the race has been back in San Diego for years. You met my son in Greece, haven't seen him since, but he's blown up, and he is, you see him on social media. So he got to run his first lap of an adult course.
I saw that.
Crushed every obstacle. But we ran into a soccer mom from seasons back who said, hey, I thought I might see you guys out here. I knew you'd do all these kind of crazy things. And she had a group that talked her into her first one. We saw her out on the course, go Jackie, keep it up. She was crushing it. It's so awesome to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's a lot of parallels to me in a journey like that and something like martial arts, which is a whole nother process of lifelong pursuit and continuous improvement and mastery and failure. So I want to get into some of that, but let's jump right into something big and scary that's out ahead of you that I want to make sure we talk about. The Spartan community has this progression of races and challenges that you can go through, of different durations and distances and formats. But this all started with Joe DeSena, the founder of Spartan Race, his original event on his property up in Vermont was this thing where the waiver was very, very simple, and maybe it still is to today. You just sign off on this thing that says you may die.
You may die. Yeah, the
You
death
may
race.
die.
Yeah, that's because I started running OCR in 2013. A friend of mine, his wife was a runner, and she goes, "You know what? You're gonna love this. You should try it. It's running up in the mountains." And I grew up in Wyoming, so I was up in the mountains almost every weekend with my dad, riding horses, and when they'd go off and I'd take off, so mountains was not an issue for me. But 20 years later, running mountains, like, this is some hard work. So, and every year after that, Big Fork was my first one, and it's beautiful scenery. It's just like back home, and that's it. I loved it. It pushed my boundaries. In high school, I was in sports. I thought I was in good shape. I've been doing martial arts for 30 years. And after that, I thought I was in good shape. Then a buddy of mine started CrossFit in the gym I was at. And holy shit, it's a whole nother level. So all this stuff added on and added on. And then getting done with CrossFit, it's like, okay, I'm in good shape. Spartan comes along. It's like, I'm always, it's a ladder. It's a progression of kicking my own ass, and loved it. And ever since, it's grown.
That's awesome. Like you hear people talk all the time about a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, right? You got to have that growth mindset. And when you do, you're just looking for that next thing that does kick your ass. And it's humbling, but that's the beauty of it, right? Like I had a very similar experience. I grew up playing soccer my whole life, and a bit of tennis for some years. And I thought all that was, pretty good cardio. I was still playing soccer 4 days a week. And then I had some buddies over at my house for a barbecue, and they go like, "Hey, we just did this cool obstacle course thing in a stadium, and there's one coming to San Diego. Like, you should do it with us. It's 2 weeks from now." I'm like, "Yeah, I can do this." Right. And I signed up. It was the sprint format, which in today's world is plus or minus 5K. In those days, very much the Spartan mile. It might have been more like 5 to 6.
Love the Spartan mile.
Man, but I it took everything I had to finish, right? And it completely took me by surprise. It was very hot. It was very dusty, dry terrain. I wasn't familiar. Totally outside my comfort zone, and quickly realized a couple things. One, what I was doing in soccer was kind of one dimensional. It didn't have this full sort of functional fitness of the things that these obstacles entail. The other thing that struck me was I remember being at the last, or it might have been the second, I don't know if we had a fire jump, but the rope climb was near the end. Mm-hmm. I'd never tried a rope climb in gym class or at a CrossFit or anything before. And I couldn't get it. Right. And so I'm knocking out my 30 burpee penalty. I'm like 2.5 hours into this sprint. Right. And I'm knocking out my 30 burpees, which are not required in the open. Right. They're optional. You do what you can do. And I remember one of my friends who had already crossed the finish line coming around the fence and going like, "Dude, just come on, let's go have a beer. You don't have to do them." And I'm like, "I'm going to finish what I started." Right. Yeah. And now, those guys will join me once in a while for a race, but the guys that got introduced to it, and the guys that said like, "That's good enough," they'll kind of dabble. For me, good enough isn't good enough, right? I'm going to do what I said I was going to come do, and I'm going to get what I can out of it. And I went home and just sort of licked my wounds, and I go like, that was so hard. Like, I don't know if I would ever do another one, which to me is the sign that I need to do another one. Right.
Oh, absolutely. I know, the first year I did one. It was the sprint, and it's like, that's cool. And then I find, I did some more research and did, you got the super and then the beast. It's like, okay, that's cool as hell. And I chase medals. It's like, oh, that's a cool medal. You know what? That's what I want. So we did, I did my first trifecta the next year in 2014. And I did the sprint in Big Fork. And then I went down to Utah maybe a month later and did the Salt Lake Beast. And that kicked my ass. I never hurt so bad in my life. The place we were staying at was a little village, had little individual condos, and the swimming pool was oh, maybe 100 yards away. And my daughter wanted to go swimming. And I got done and I had to crawl from my villa to the swimming pool because I hurt so bad. And it took me probably 20 minutes to get there too. So, man. After that, we did a super in Red Deer, Canada, and I trained actually for that. And I kicked ass on that. But that first beast just ate my lunch, and it was beautiful.
It is, right? Yeah, I totally know the feeling. And there's always something more in it, right? That you can go for. I think even, like a Killian or somebody who's a multi-time champion and an elite in the sport is still going to say there's more to strive for. Now I'm what I started in 2015, so 7 years or so into this thing. And I just ran when I did that race in San Diego. It was my first ever 0 burpee, completely clean race.
Oh, cool.
So I got through that, and I can look at it and go, well, there's a few areas where I should have pushed harder, could have, would have, should have trained differently. But clean race, 0 burpees, 47 minutes or so. I thought, well, pretty decent for my age group. Let's see how I placed. And then I look at the thing and I'm like 18th out of 38.
I know, right?
I'm like right in the middle of the pack. And the guy in my 50 to 54 age group was the fastest time all day of any race, any runner, any race category. So there's just, there's people out there that are so impressive, whether it's their athletic ability or it's just, their willingness to get out there and show up and do something like this.
Yeah.
And I think like part of the key or the beauty in it to me is like you're talking about some of those mountain courses.
Mm-hmm.
Big Bear is one for me. Every time I go back, it's like, why did I come back here again?
That's, the first time I did Big Bear, it's like, this is horse shit. I am never coming back. This is worse than Big Fork or Tahoe. It's like, no, it's just, and then, every time you go to a new place, side note, you collect friends. Hey, my dog's trying to get in the door. You collect friends. So I've got, friends in Vegas, in California, in Seattle. So you collect all these groups of people. And so the following year, the Vegas crew was like, oh, we're going to go to Big Bear. It's like, fine. It's like, I'll go. And then it's, it's like, you're 3/4 of the way done. It's like, just finish this son of a bitch. You know what? There's dinner and beer after you get done. You'll be, and then tomorrow we'll do the sprint, and that's the act of recovery. So, it's, but it's like, it's like, I'm never gonna. Okay, I'll go.
Yeah, and yeah, same process, right? Like, why did I do this again? And one of the beautiful things about Big Bear to me is I think it's the steepest course that I've been on. I haven't been on Killington. I haven't been to Salt Lake or Montana, but it's one of the harder ones just in terms of being kind of straight up and down. And even for SoCal, it's surprisingly high in altitude, 9,000 feet or something like that. It is just, it just pounds you in terms of the altitude gain and loss. So I'll put it this way, like to me, it's one of the suckiest mountains to run a Spartan on, but it's also one of the best views, like when you're in the suck, you can turn around and you have this great view looking down at the lake, right? So you just kind of reframe it like that and put yourself in the moment. Well, it's a beautiful place.
That's the thing is, you got like Big Fork's got that beautiful lake, Flathead Lake, you go see Salt Lake, you get up on top. We did Breckenridge one year, and you look down in the valley, and if you're in the open and you can stop and just take in your surroundings and say, you know what, this brought me here, and beautiful view, good conversation with people, and you're kicking your own ass in the meantime. Hey, what can be better?
Right. Yeah, we did Breck a few years ago as well. A couple funny stories from that. You stop, you look around. I think there was a water station. I was grabbing a cup of water and I saw a bear. It was like like a bear right there on the slope. And it kind of, brought me back to the old, like, well, I'm not the fastest guy on the course. I'm not the slowest guy on the course, but I don't have to outrun the bear. I only have to outrun this other Spartan behind me.
Exactly. You got to outrun the slowest guy.
Right. And then I have a buddy that great friend from a long time, back to the college days, who lives out there, lives in Colorado. And he came up to, I couldn't talk him into the race, but he said he would check it out. And so he and his family kind of ran around the mountain a little bit, checking out obstacles, checking out the race. And he got super fired up. So the next time we came back out, he joined us at Fort Carson, Colorado Springs.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Nice, hot, June or July. Man, it's brutal down there. And he almost had heat stroke on the course. Like at one point, he was sitting in the shade for like half an hour, and I go, dude, like, we got to make a decision. Are we calling for the med truck, or are you going to get up and move your feet? But it was, again, somebody who lives out there, they figure decent shape, they're at altitude, they're used to it. And it humbled him very quickly. Kudos to him. He made a comeback. He did it again the next year with me, and maybe he's hooked. I hope so.
Well, that's, the progression. We started talking about the death race, and the progression, after the first trifecta, it's like, okay, well, instead now one, we can get two. And then speaking of Hawaii, I'm always the first when I around with my group. And I don't think I ever heard anybody in Billings, Montana doing an ultra. Well, okay, fine. I'm going to get wild hair at my ass. And we went to Hawaii, and I did my first ultra there.
Wow. Okay.
And what a wake up call, 2 laps of that, the jungle is great, but when you get out on that back 9 and that mud, there's no traction. Right. And you're coming back out of that, the valley over that one ridge. And I got mud stuck up to my calves. You've got 50 extra pound of mud, and I'm just pissing and moaning. It's just like, this sucks. I don't give a shit about the view. And then it's like you get done with the first lap. It's like, okay, one more lap. We could do this. Oh. And then I always pick up on my ultras. I always pick up a straggler that is in the same boat. They're pissing and moaning. They don't want to do it. They want to quit. And it's like, you know what? You're here. Let's just go. So I always pick up a straggler, and we always finish. Yeah. And that's what's great about these guys that run in races, is that you got a camaraderie. You don't know Joe Blow or Helen, but you know what? They need help. You're going to help them.
Right. Yeah. So 100%. You mentioned medals. Couple quick comments on that. I just published a podcast with an author, Doug Brackman, a book called Driven. I'm going to send you the link to it. Okay. It will really resonate with you. Probably anybody listening to this, certainly people in the Spartan world, but it's literally about the genetics of how about 10% of the population are wired, and why we're driven to do stuff like this. It's the hunter gene. But Joe DeSena and Spartan have also done a very good job of the psychology, like the gamification of, kind of goal-driven, goal-oriented type A people, right? We want a couple more cheap pieces of metal that get, stick together with magnets to add up to a bigger medal.
Yes. You know what? I got trophies up the wazoo for karate, and I got the ones that mean a lot to me, certain places I've been, Vegas, California, whatnot. But these medals, it's like, oh, I remember that, that gives me memories of Sparta or Hawaii, or, just even to the friends that you meet. So that's what I like about the medals.
Yeah, they do. They're a great, landmark for those kind of memories, a post in the ground. Like I talk about it with Michael Jr., with our son, that when he ran Hawaii the first time, he was pumped up to run the kids course, and he went out there running in first place, neck and neck with another kid. And I think the second obstacle was rope climb. He loves the rope climb. He crushes it. We have one at home that he practices. And for whatever reason, that day, he just couldn't get it. Like a couple times he failed. And that's life, right? It's like a metaphor for life. Sometimes you just have those days. He had to do his burpees, and so the other kid took off. But Michael just took himself out of the race. Like after that, he was just jogging it out, and And you never know, like, you never know, that kid could fail the next 3 obstacles.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the end of the race, we had to do a little debrief, and he came back on fire on Sunday and crushed the whole course. But like, so now we don't have to have that whole conversation again. All we have to say is, hey, remember that race in Hawaii? And it's a life lesson you just click back to.
Yeah, that's the lessons you learn. You know, after doing the, you know, the ultra, it was always looking for the next thing. You know, okay, I've done 5 trifectas this year. Okay, now they've got the hurricane heat. It's like, okay, that's something totally different. So me and a buddy of mine that he still runs with me, let's do a 4-hour. And you know, you got your gear list, you got this, you got that, and it was 4 hours of suck, basically. And it's not so much you know, on the sprints, supers, and beasts and ultras, it's you against yourself. You're playing in your own mind. You know, can I do this? Can I finish this? This is going to suck. But after you do so many, that tamps down. So it's a no-brainer. But the hurricane heat, you've got another level of psychology into it. Like you were saying, is, you know what, if your bottle of water is not full, they're going to dock you points, or you're going to have to do extra burpees, or it's just a different mindset that I enjoyed.
Yeah. So for people who may not be that familiar, we're talking about this progression in the race series. There are various distances, like you mentioned, the sprint, then the super, then the beast, and then the ultra beast, which is 50 kilometers. Those are races, like you said, you against yourself, against the course, against obstacles and other runners if you're competing. Now, hurricane heat, we get into more of a boot camp style endurance event. So now there's more of a team element, right? You got the cadre of instructors playing mind games with you. There's more of that element, and the unknown comes in, right?
Oh, absolutely. You don't know what these guys are. They're masochists. And you know what, you go along with it because you want to finish it and get that dog tag, you know. And just, it's never the same thing twice, you know. You meet some cool guys. The Cryptea are, they're you know, during the heat, they're just assholes. And but they don't, you know, that's in your head, they're assholes because they're telling you what to do. You signed up for it, dude. So what, you better take that ass chewing, or you're gone. It's plain and simple. It's if you can't do what you're instructed to do, you DNF. So
yeah, this is where, so it just ramps up the pressure to not only physical performance, but emotional control, and that mental fortitude and resilience, right? And so this one also has a progression. There's a 4-hour, 12-hour, and a 24-hour. Have you done all 3?
You know, I've done a couple 4s, I've done a couple 12s, but the first 12 that I did actually DNF. It was an eye-opener for me. It's like, you know what, I've never got disqualified a lot in my life. You know, I might have punched somebody too hard or kicked somebody too hard, great, but never against myself. It's like, Jesus, this was a different animal to conquer.
And
so it's like,
what caused you to DNF? What happened?
The funny story. These are always great stories. Well, it was in Lake Castiac in California, and you had to bring sandbags. And so you had to actually go down to the beach, fill your sandbags up like 3/4 of the way, and carry them back to home base. And you had 5 of them. So, and you had, I don't know, an hour and a half to do that. And, you know, sandbags aren't light. So you can go all down, fill them all 5, and try to carry them back yourself any way, shape, or form. But, you know, most people, they carried, you know, they went down, and you can only fill up what you're going to carry. So you filled them up, tied them off, carried them back. And you've got probably, I'd say it was a quarter mile, a little over a quarter mile from home base to the beach. And, in the beta testing, they did it in a certain amount of time, which is fine. So I did 3 and it took all my effort because, these things they're 35 pounds each, 40 pounds each. And so I've got an extra 100 pounds on me trying to go a quarter of a mile back. And that was the rule. You've got to listen to the rules. The object was to go down to the beach, film up, and bring them back to home base. Okay, so I got the first 3, and I'm running out of time. So I hauled my ass down to the beach and fill up my 2 left, and it's just taking everything it's got to get back, and I'm walking across the parking lot. And these guys are finishing their standard races, the beast or the super or whatever, and these guys going, oh, you know what? That's what Spartan is like. Oh man, you're doing the hurricane heat. Good for you. You're kicking ass. You're taking names. I'm like going, no, I'm not. And this one guy goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I got to take these sandbags to the over here. He goes, need a ride? And they said, I didn't hear anyway that I couldn't get a ride from here to there. So I got in the back of put my sandbags on his tailgate, and he drove. And so we're about 100 yards away. And he goes, I better get off here because I don't want them to see me.
Right.
So you know what? And I was a minute late to home base. So I was DNF.
So the time cutoff was the DNF.
Time cutoff was it.
Got it.
But not a lot of people know that story.
That's funny. I don't know if you told me that story or if I've heard it somewhere else.
Yeah, but yeah, listen to the rules. They didn't say how to get the sandbags there. They just said get the sandbags back. So if they would have caught me, they probably would have said, good for you.
Right.
You're thinking outside the box. So
yeah, like this is the thing, right? Like that life lesson with our son, out there in Hawaii is like, don't give up. You never know what's around the corner. Like, however you want to apply that to life. And same thing with the hurricane heat, right? It's not just about going out there and punishing yourself, or you're a masochist or whatever, or it's just a challenge. These are life lessons, right? Like paying attention to detail, solving problems, communicating. There's just a whole bunch of layers to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I got out of it is, there's certain things that you have to do in however you want to do them. If there's a list, read the list first, and then because if you do 1, 2, 3 and number 7 says forget number 2, you just screwed yourself. So
right. Yeah, exactly. So I want to come back to kind of the martial arts application in what you're doing with this stuff, but let's make sure we get to Death Race. So before we hit Death Race, which is the event for which the waiver says you may die, what's the longest duration or time of like an endurance event you've done? So you mentioned 12-hour hurricane heat, and you must have come back and done one of those successfully. Is that your longest? Have you done others?
The hurricane heat was that I finished was in Salt Lake 2018, I think. But that was at 7:00 at night to 7 in. So again, it's a whole different ball game all through. Right. It's full moon out. You can't see shit in front of you. But that was my longest outside of the race. My first hurricane or my first ultra took me 13 hours. So,
Okay. So you've been out there doing stuff for 12, 13 hours. I actually like the overnight stuff myself. I just find that the like the darkness, all the senses change, right? So you start to perceive and think about things differently. And for me, I find the nighttime an easier time to just get more into a flow state, a zone of just being present and just doing the work.
Yeah. Nighttime, I'm a night person myself. So it's like when I heard it was 7:00 at night, till 7 in, it's like, this is cool. I want to do this one.
I did a 24-hour hike for charity last fall. And it was an interesting setup the way we started. We started at noon, I believe, on a Saturday. So it was noon to noon. And it was October-ish, somewhere in there. And so fall, it's getting dark relatively early in the day, right? So we hiked from noon to about 6 p.m. and it got dark. And when night comes, your body sort of thinks like the day is over, right? You're programmed to this cycle, but we're actually only 6 hours into a 24-hour push, right? So like, holy cow. And then you get to midnight and it feels like you've been going forever. And it's like, I'm halfway there. And then the sun comes up at like 5, 6 a.m. and you think like, gosh, I'm almost done, right? The sun's come up. No, I got to go 6, 7 more hours.
Yep. Oh, that's your whole internal time clock has to rewire itself really, really quick to do some of that stuff.
Yeah. So one of the things with the hurricane heat is kind of you have some small degrees of unknowns, right? You never quite know what the event is going to entail. Even the list of gear, it's similar, but you never quite know, right? You're going to find out at the last minute some things like what to bring and where to show up, and then you just kind of go with the process. So there's this thing called the Death Race that happens at Joe's farm out in Vermont, and you sort of have an idea of when it's going to begin, but very similar concept, right? Like you'll know when you know what to bring, where to be, and when it's going to start. And here's the thing, you have no idea what it's going to entail, probably like a hurricane heat, but you also have no idea how long it's going to last.
Right. That's, I've been doing research on the last several years, and it's like, that's, 1 year it was the crowd under barbed wire. It's like, okay, that's something that's totally different than what your mindset is, that, you're trying to prepare your brain for certain things, and then they totally throw you through a loop. It's like, oh shit. But you've got to rewire yourself really quick to take on that challenge. Right.
And talking about trinkets, I think for those who do finish the death race, which it's just when he decides to call it done, 60, 65, 70, 75 hours later of pretty much nonstop, no sleep, you get a little plastic skull. I think that they said it's worth about $1.
$1.69 or something like that.
Right. So kudos to you, man. I think this thing we know it has a crazy attrition rate, but it also has something, again, like just pushing the button and saying, I'm willing to commit myself and my money and my reputation, whatever you want to say yes. Like not many people do that. A couple hundred people do it. But even from there, the ones who will actually show up, if 200 people sign up, maybe 50 will toe the start line and maybe 5 will finish. So kudos for even, saying yes. So why? I mean, that's what most people want to ask is, why do you want to do this?
It's that challenge. I'm always trying to find something that, one, nobody's ever done, especially around here. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody in my area doing one, which is cool because it's like, I'm first one from this area. And then the physical and the mental process of getting there is an important process for me. Can I do it? Will I do it? Will I finish? It's all those mind games. I know my body can do it, and that's one of the things that Joe always says is your brain should override your body, because your brain knows what to do. Your body just has to catch up. So,
right.
And plus, I like to be an inspiration to other people. Get off your ass, do something, even if it's just going for a hike or winning a medal. Right. It's a participation medal. That's what I tell the guys. But you know what I got that participation medal for was kicking my own ass. So
yeah, 100%. And I think of the people I've seen that have done and finished the death race successfully, you don't look at them and go like, oh yeah, like I would have picked that person out to successfully complete, right? These don't look like the most chiseled athletes or the fastest guy or gal or whatever, right? This is
Right.
taking normal people doing uncommon, exceptional things because they put their mind to it and they have some purpose they want to fulfill, like you just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. The goal oriented. There you go. You know, it's a goal, plain and simple.
And the process itself is really the benefit, right? You put that crazy event on the calendar and now you have to prepare, or you should.
Yeah,
You better.
My wife is like going, "You're going to the fucking gym again? Really?" It's like, you were just there 4 hours ago. It's like, I gotta get in shape. It's like, well, you do all this. It's like, I'm not in shape yet, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like, what do you do?
Yeah, and there's always another aspect to it. And I think you saw the Instagram post I put out, I don't know, a month or so ago, when I missed going to the Spartan Ultra in San Luis
Oh,
Obispo,
yeah.
50 kilometers. So I go, all right, I'm going to do something else today that sucks. So I did 50 kilometers on the concept rowing machine.
Oh,
So I'll give you that as a workout or a challenge. That's a lot of time in the suck.
yeah, no kidding.
But
Wow.
hey, again, like, how do you reframe it, right? So it was a Sunday morning. I just took the thing out by the pool, beautiful view, you know, fresh air, sunshine, and it was terrible. But you know, I was, you know, this is a manufactured crucible, right? Like
Yeah.
we have it good. Life is good. I have a roof over
Yeah.
my head. I'm fed. I'm not really in danger. Not true for a lot of people in the world, unfortunately, right? So
Right.
this is an opportunity.
Yeah. You know, that's for a self-defense application. You know, the better I move and I'm aware of my surroundings, the better I'm going to be able to protect my family, my friends, you know, to do what I do.
Right. So what, you know, when stuff does get really hard at a 12-hour hurricane heat, at an overnight event on an ultra, or, you know, what you're going to face in 60, 75 hours of the death race, you know, what do you fall back to? What's your why, or what do you anchor back to that keeps you going?
You know, it's the devil and angel on my shoulder, but to tell you the truth, there is no angel. It's just me and this asshole in my head arguing. You know, what, you signed up for this, fucking finish it. And it's like, no, it's like, and pretty much 100% of the time the asshole wins. So, you know, that's, you always, you know, when you have employees, you got to be firm but decisive on how you treat them and give them their jobs for the day. For me, I've got to give myself a job, but I can't be nice, because I know how I am. If I'm nice, I'm gonna, oh, that's okay. You know, you can stop now. It's like, no, just get your ass going. So
That's awesome. I never thought about it that way. It's a great opportunity to lead yourself.
mhm.
You know, we often
And you
think
know,
about leading others.
you see that little meme all the time. You know, you got the leader and the boss. The boss is behind the desk with the whip and the guys, and the leader is out in front. And that's what I always think about is, you know what, if one of my guys has more experience than me, I'm going to ask him to show me how to do it, just so I get the experience on it. But if I have the experience, I'm going to go out and show him what to do, you know. And there could be a better way, but this is my way. And I encourage them to go out and find another way, a third way, a fourth way, just so they get their own way to figure it out.
Figure it out. Yeah, figure it out. What about the family? Are they gonna come out and watch or wait for the death race? And like, you know,
No,
does your wife think you're insane like mine
yeah,
does?
you know what? She's been with me for a long time, and she is used to the insanity. My daughter's actually the Monday before the death race, I got to take her to college. She's a freshman, and so we've got to drive her up for the orientation. So I'm actually leaving from there to fly to Vermont, and I'm so it's like that whole week is just stuffed with personal stuff.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Even though they can't be there, I know they're going to be there with you in spirit. I'm sure you think about, like I do, what example am I setting here as a father, for my family, for others, and sometimes that keeps you going.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
tough.
my daughter is, God, she's hard headed, just like me. But she's driven. She knows what she wants to do. And when I was her age, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I was doing martial arts when I was 16, but there's no career in it per se. You can have a school when you get older, but she's almost 18 and she knows what to do. And you know what? I'm gonna make sure she has the ability and the drive to get there.
Nice. That's our job, right? Job as parents. So let's just touch on that. Martial arts, 30 plus years as a student, as a teacher. I mean, we're always students, right? Lifelong student.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, you know what? I may have a black belt but that holds up my pants. I could really give a shit about that. Uh, when I learn from other people. The internet is so crazy right now. Everybody's got their own martial art, their jujitsu, taekwondo, karate, you name it. And what I like to do is I'm a sucker for watching videos. It's like, that's a cool move. I'm gonna take that and let's see if I can do something. I'm only 5'6", so if I do that on somebody that's 6'2", I got to modify it a little bit to make it work for me. But that 6'2" guy doesn't have to do what I have to do. So I've got to manage how to make it work for different people. But if it doesn't work, throw it out.
Right. Yeah, no, that's one aspect of it I really love. There's no one size fits all,
Right.
and you have to be switched on to think about, how is that going to fit for me, my body size, shape, limitations, reality, the circumstance.
Right. Right.
And if you're looking at, it goes again back to the same thing, like let's say with a death race. If you are just looking at that guy next to you and thinking like, oh my God, he's chopping wood like twice the speed I am, how am I ever going to finish? You just took yourself out of it.
Right.
Right. It has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with that other guy.
It's the mindset is, you know what, you've got each rank is you're expected to do a certain thing, and the higher rank you get, it's the mind games is there, and you've got to learn to overcome and adapt to get to that next race. Or you take that guy chopping wood, and you know what, I'm doing it my pace. I've got to get this much wood chopped. If I get more, great. But if I don't, I'm put my head down and just get it done.
Just do the work. So if I guess if you think about your background with that, where does that give you an edge, an advantage, an asset going into the death race? Where's martial arts gonna help you in those 70 hours of suck?
I've had several different instructors in my career of martial arts, and they're all over the place. They come from different backgrounds, hard style, soft style, ground, stand up, judo, you name it. And they all have these little mind games to play with you. I had a combat martial artist, and he was more militaristic at his training. And it was either put up or shut up, and you think you're in good shape, let's go. I'm going to prove you wrong. And then, one of my first instructors is he was like Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off, just a little. He used to call me, when I get in trouble, Daniel-san, so I got in trouble a lot. And so, it was sweep the floor, dig a hole, fill it back in, just, things to temper me to get to the next level.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so many different ways to learn and so many different styles of instruction. And it's great to have such a background like that. I know it's going to serve you well. I'm excited to watch your preparation journey and cheer for you in July. So just before we wrap up here, where can people follow you on Facebook and Instagram? And are you going to be are you going to be putting stuff out there as you prep for this thing?
I've got my Instagram page is Doctore Dan. I've got a few things out there. You had to do a quarter trick to
trick.
Okay. That's one of, you have to get on the news, podcast, newspaper, radio. And then the second challenge was to do a quarter trick that no other death race, they can't have the same trick. So I had to put a quarter trick out there, and it's kind of funny. If you find it, you have to watch it.
Okay.
And then the third one is just to film your workouts, your progression, and send that in. So I've done all three now, yeah. And then my Facebook page is actually BD Boone. That's my pen name. I wrote a book several years ago, and that's my pen name. So
awesome. Yeah, I know we were talking off air that you wrote a book, and that led to some other things. And it's just, it's interesting how you never quite know where any path, martial arts or the book or things around that might lead. So I'd love to have you back after the death race. We'll do an after action and talk some more maybe about what it took to put a book together and kind of where that led you, along with some other parts of life. But I'm excited for you. I'm honored to be part of your qualification by way of putting this out there to the world, and we'll get links up to your social media.
Perfect.
And I'd love to stay in touch as you train. I've been doing a lot more weighted rucking lately and turning that into its own endurance event. So if you want to play along with us on some virtual
Absolutely.
long shitty rucks, we can do some of that.
That sounds like a suck. I'm in.
I love it. I love when people just say, that sounds terrible, count me in.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Dan, any parting thoughts on death race, life, fatherhood, or otherwise, Spartan?
No, death race is like life. Get there, see what you can do with it.
And hey, look, we all have limited time. Don't know what the shelf life is, but you may die. You will die. We're all gonna die.
You know what? I'm good.
Hopefully not on the course.
Absolutely.
But one day, one life between here and there.
Yep.
All right, brother. Well, super appreciate your time. Excited for you. We'll see you out on a Spartan course again soon. And I'm excited to train with you and prep for this thing.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time, man.
All right, Dan. Appreciate you.